Hi everyone, this is Steve Quinn, and I'd like to welcome you to the first of our little training sessions on coaching basics. You're probably watching this if you recently attended one of our coaching workshops, and what we want to do with these little training sessions is to add a little bit to the knowledge that we imparted in the workshops, but also to reinforce some of the skills and the techniques, the tools that we'll use, and give you an opportunity to go into just a little bit more depth than we had on the day. So what we have in store for you is a series of these training sessions. They'll be delivered by email to you every 2 or 3 days over the next few weeks. And what we intend to do is to go from the basics into some of the more detailed areas that you should be thinking about developing if you want to take your coaching forward. So this first session today is about a couple of things. It's really to pin down the definitions. What is coaching? So we're clear what it is and what it's not. We also want to look at the skills that are required, and we've got a long list of those, but we have a few that we want to concentrate on over the next few weeks because they really are the foundation for you being a good coach. So let's look at some coaching definitions just to be clear about what coaching is. We've drawn this first one from Jenny Rogers. Jenny Rogers wrote the book that we recommended if you were only to get one book on coaching. It's called Coaching Skills: A Handbook. And this is her definition of coaching. So I'd like to highlight some key words for you. This is working with clients to quickly, speedily increase and sustain effectiveness. So it's a relatively short, quick process. It's about making improvements in effectiveness. And she takes it beyond work by saying this is about both life and career. This is about increasing effectiveness in life and career through focused learning. So coaching's a focused learning process, and it's broader than just work. And if you think about it, although in coaching most of what we deal with is are work issues, people bring all of their stuff to work. So if we have an issue around someone's development or someone's effectiveness in role, and the challenge they have is outside of work, we can't ignore that. We might need to think about how we can assist, but it needs to come into the room so that we can begin to at least surface it and think about how that's impacting and how we might move forward. Let's look at another slightly simpler definition from John Whitmore. Whitmore started his coaching in the sports world, and he was looking at performance coaching. Now I know we're working with Professional Update and PRD, and it's not a performance process, it's a developmental process. Whitmore actually moved on from sports coaching to a much broader organisational view of coaching and what it can add, and this is his definition. It's about unlocking people's potential to maximise their own performance, so owned by the individual, and it's helping them to learn rather than teaching them. So this is quite a concise definition about being able to access all of people's potential, to maximise their effectiveness, their performance, and it's about helping them to learn rather than teaching them. So these are two useful definitions. If you go searching, you'll find many more. They have subtle nuances in each of them. These two are a good starting point for us. So let's move on to look at what the skills are of a great coach. And this is quite a long list, came from Rogers again and from others. And it talks about having an interest in people, a curiosity, some intuition perhaps. Being self-aware, we talked about that in the workshop. Being self-aware and self-disciplined. Being able to hold back that urge that we all have to give people the answer, to offer advice. Being able to listen really well, authentically. Being able to offer and receive feedback. Being able to offer challenge and support to people. Two key dimensions of coaching that we need to be thinking about. Sometimes people need challenged around their thinking or their behaviour or their practice. Sometimes they need supported through a difficult patch or supported to help tease out their thinking. So challenge and support, key dimensions here. They also talk about humility and acknowledging ourselves and others in the coaching process and what we bring and what we lack. Interestingly, they talk about being able to go beyond technique. So we've given you a 4-stage grow process. You remember the 4 stages? And it's useful. It's a very simple process, 4 steps that we can follow through. And you'll find that as you begin to use it and become more experienced, that it has some limitations. And that's okay. What Rogers and others are arguing is that at some stage we should go beyond just the process steps or the technique to integrate all of what we bring in terms of experience and skill and knowledge into our coaching. And lastly, they talk about us being the centered person in the relationship of necessity, that it's not about our drama. We're grounded, we're centered, we're stable. We can offer a safe environment for people to begin to explore their issues. So those are some of the broad range of skills that are required to be a great coach. And in our work with you initially, we want to look at a subset of that. We want to look at some core skills. And the core skills are questioning, listening, offering feedback, and using your pause button. So first of all, questioning. You remember when we introduced the GROW model, we gave you a crib sheet with some questions that you might find useful at each stage of the process. The questions are different for each stage of the process. And in coaching, you'll find that you need a range of questions. So using questions and exploring them and reflecting on what worked and what didn't work, maybe using your crib sheet initially, all of that is okay. And gradually where you want to get to is that the questions just come from inside intuitively almost, and they're appropriate questions for the stage of the conversation. And that requires some skill and some practice. And so we need to work on that. We'll come back at a later session to go into some more detail on that. Coupled with questioning is listening. And when you've asked a question, listen for the answer. Shut up. I think a problem we all find as coaches is being able to sit with our discomfort around silence perhaps while the person thinks, or having the answer and getting impatient at the time it's been taken for the person to reach their conclusion, to find their answer. So listening is a really, really important part of what we do. It's kind of a rare in our society that we're listened to with any kind of intensity for any length of time. And so many people, when they're coached, will say the most important thing that I experience with you is that you just listen. So developing our listening is a core skill that we need to work on and get better at. The third area is to talk about offering feedback. You remember in the previous slide we talked about giving and receiving feedback. We'd like you to start with giving feedback, offering feedback, what you've noticed, what you've observed, what the person did well, what might make it even better, perhaps some comments about their behaviour or their thinking or their approach, whatever is appropriate. And as you get comfortable doing that, you can move to the stage where you begin to ask for feedback. So, how did I do today? What worked for you? What could I do that would make it an even better experience for you? So we'll start with offering feedback, but we'll also move on at a later stage to receiving feedback, because giving and receiving feedback are key parts of the coaching process. And lastly, I want you to think about developing and using a pause button, an internal or an external pause button for you, so that you can appropriately use it to help you with your listening, or to help you stop offering advice, or to help you to just be quiet while the other person speaks. in our workshops, we sometimes give out little pause buttons, the little bump-ons, you know, those little bumpers you put in your cupboards to stop them banging. And you can stick it on your notebook or on your desk and notice it, or even press it if you need to, if you need reminding that actually the balance of the speaking should lie with the person you're coaching. You shouldn't be dominant in that very much. So developing the use of your pause button is something that we'll probably remind you of. So these are the core skills that we're going to be working on over the next few weeks. We'd like you to do one other thing from today, and that's to make sure that you get some coaching practice. So I'm sure some of you went from the workshop last time and found an opportunity, or an opportunity presented itself for you to practice your coaching. That might have been at work or outside of work with family or friends or whatever. And if you've done that, that's fantastic. If you haven't done that yet, you need to start doing that if you want to be building your skills and your experience as a coach. So I'd urge you to do that. And when you're doing it, think about these 4 skill areas. Your questioning, your listening, your offer of feedback, and whether or not you need to develop your use of the pause button. So I hope you found that useful today. We'll be back in touch again in a few days with the next session for you to access, and that might be another presentation like this, or it might be a short video clip, or perhaps a tool for you to use and to try out. And each time we'll be saying to you, have you got some practice, and when are you going to do that? How are you going to find some opportunities to do that? So thanks for listening through this. As I say, I hope you found it useful, and I look forward to speaking to you again in a few days' time. Thanks.